How long has it been, people? How long have we continued to chase the ultimate portable gaming ride? These represent just a couple of decades of trying to chase the perfect portable gaming system. Maybe we should look a different direction. Hi everybody, this is Shane R. Monroe with Monroe World. Before we get to today's product I'd like to look at, I sort of wanted to talk about what led us there to begin with. As you can see here, I have a rather disparate collection of portable gaming devices. From the latest Nintendo Switch, I think the oldest thing here may be the Game Boy Advance, the smaller SP edition. But all along the way I've tried PS Vita, PlayStation Portable, Shield Portable, Shield Tablet, Nintendo DS, 3DS, GPD Win. What I miss out on? I've been trying. I keep looking, hoping for the ultimate hit, the ultimate ride. Haven't quite found it yet, but maybe we'll get a little bit closer with today's product. Over the years, we've spent a considerable amount of time trying to attach some controllers to our phones or our tablets. We've been trying to seek out a methodology of avoiding terrible touchscreen controls. And let's be honest, I find touchscreen controls absolutely horrific. And I think anybody who's into classic gaming emulation or classic computer emulation probably agrees with me. Now listen, if you're part of Gen Y, Gen Z, and you grew up never having a controller in your hand or never holding a joystick, and you spend your entire life on your phone, perhaps touchscreen controls don't bother you. But when I'm playing a first-person shooter like Call of Duty, for example, or I'm playing a team objective game like Overwatch or Paladins, the last thing I want to do is fight with the touch controls on the screen. And my son, who's 14 years old, he can manipulate that with great ease. A lot of us, however, cannot. I grew up with a joystick in my hand. And frankly, I have not been able to get rid of that feeling. So over the years, having tablets, Android phones, all of these devices, I've worked very, very hard to try to find the perfect controller. In reality, the perfect controller just doesn't exist. Part of the problem is we've spent all of our time trying to attach the controller to the phone. And that always offers up some particular challenge, right? Where are you supposed to put the phone while you're using the controller? You prop it up on a table, you set it in your lap, you hold it with one hand, or I mean, I've actually seen devices that you clip onto your head that hold your phone in front of your face. Those devices exist. Everybody's trying to find a way to game on the phone and put the phone in front of you while you're using a decent controller. That's what this one even tried to do that, right? It's got a little clip. You should be able to clip your phone in here. But for some reason, it just doesn't work out. And that's really the problem. It's not just one particular problem that exists with all of these controllers. Each one of these, there's a reason I bought each of these controllers. I bought them maybe to clip in. I bought them because they were Bluetooth. I'm using them because I already had one. And I actually like using this sideways. The D-pad's great. But there's only two buttons, right? You can't play a first-person shooter with two buttons. So every single controller seems to have a problem, even if it's just as simple as comfort, right? This, I can assure you, is the least comfortable controller outside of an Intellivision controller, or maybe even a ColecoVision controller, that I've ever had the displeasure of using. I have big hands. I got these big old man paws, right? And for me, like this Logitech, this thing is a beast, right? I can wrap my hands around this and I've got room to spare. But something like this is for elf hands. Elf hands can use this. My big old man hands can't handle these. But, you know, this one's a nice big size. This one's a nice big size. This one is considerably, extraordinarily uncomfortable. This is almost as bad as this. My point is that every time I find a controller, there's something wrong with it. Whether it doesn't have enough buttons, has too many buttons, the analog stick sucks, the D-pad sucks, the battery life sucks, it only works in a certain mode, it only works in Bluetooth mode, it won't work wired, it only works wired, it won't work with Bluetooth 4.2. There's a million reasons. This stopped working on Android tablets because they upgraded the Bluetooth stack. Million and one reasons. However, in recent years, and this is a beginning sort of this trend, instead of trying to attach the controller to the phone, maybe the right answer is attach the phone to the controller. That puts the phone in your purview at any given time, right? So, unfortunately, with this guy, you only have two positions to choose from. You got this one, which is basically pointing the phone down at you, so you kind of have to hold it like this, right? So this would be like if you were laying in bed, I suppose. And then if you're sitting up, you click it to the up position, and you still have to kind of lean it down like this. And now the weight is pulling you down. So clicking a phone onto a controller is not a new thing. Not at all. You would think so based on marketing and brochures for some of these things. But the truth is, trying to clip a device onto a controller is nothing new. The problem is it just hasn't been done right, and it hasn't been done with checking all the boxes of quality that are necessary in order for a discerning gamer like myself to truly appreciate and want to use it. So, enter a new competitor. Well, Moga is not a new product line, and PowerA is not a new developer, but this is their latest attempt at trying to get the controller attached to the phone, but the other way around. Put the phone on the controller. People seem to like it when I do these little breakdown or visual brochures, so let's do that on this device right now, and then we'll cover the gaps for the items that aren't included on there. Stick around. The PowerA Moga XP5-X is a gaming device designed to look and feel like a console controller, and the product packaging wants you to know it was designed for Xbox. And without the clip-on, you could easily mistake it for an official product. With the removable clip-on holding device, the XP5 can hold portable devices with a width of 79mm or about 3.12 inches, making it compatible with a wide variety of mobile devices, including the latest from Samsung and Apple, although you may have to remove your case if you have a particularly wide phone. The clip is sturdy enough to handle my Samsung S21 without issue. The clip features rubberized contact points and articulating position options to provide a more comfortable, well-weighted experience. Being able to change the weight distribution can vastly reduce the pressure on your wrists, and being able to change it so easily allows you to play longer. This also allows for variable configuration of viewing angles so you can play comfortably sitting at a desk, on a couch, or even laying in bed. The Moga weighs in at about 9.6 ounces without a device attached to it, which makes it lighter and slightly cheaper feeling than an official Xbox One controller. The controller has all the buttons, triggers, and sticks you would hope for, and they're all located in common locations, ensuring you won't have to relearn where things are. Along with the standard 12-button configuration, the XP5 thankfully includes two mappable buttons on the back, similar to the Xbox Elite controller. I've gotten quite used to having these on my Elite too, so they are a welcomed addition. The triggers, bumpers, start and select, as well as the rear buttons feel a bit less durable than the analog sticks and the four face buttons when compared to the official Xbox controller. A standard 4-direction D-pad is also featured and has a green up arrow for some odd reason. D-pad quality varies greatly in devices like this, and I would consider this one to be of slightly above average quality. Also included is the signature Xbox button, which will launch Game Pass on Android devices when it's connected. The controller works as both a wired controller on PC as well as a Bluetooth 4.2 low-energy device, so it should work on a multitude of devices including computers and tablets. Quite unusual for a controller, there's a standard size USB port as well as a USB micro port on the top of the controller. The micro USB is used for wired play as well as charging the controller, and the top port allows you to use the controller as a 3000 milliamp power bank for charging your phone during play or between gaming sessions. This internal battery can power external devices with the included cables or continuously charge the controller's own isolated battery. Mapping the rear buttons is all done through hardware. No software is needed. This is convenient, but also means you cannot assign anything other than the buttons and D-pad to them. They make it super easy though. Hold the programming button for 2 seconds, then tap the button you want to remap, then tap the rear button you want to assign it to. For many of us with Elite controllers, we assign L3 and R3 buttons to these alternative controls for running and melee actions. Finally, the controller has compatibility with both DirectInput and XInput. Unfortunately, though, it defaults to the former. When connecting to a PC, you'll likely need to hold Start and Select for 3 seconds to flip modes. Having compatibility for both modes, though, is great for those that need it. The PowerA Moga XP5-X is overall very comfortable to use, although I did have some issues with my larger hands getting to the bumper buttons. The rubberized grips are a nice extra. However, over time, hopefully they won't fall off, an issue that plagued the Xbox Elite controller, of which this device is clearly inspired by. I think it is safe to say if you're comfortable with the standard Xbox One controller, you're going to feel right at home with this device. This controller is no substitute, in my opinion, for a quality first-party Xbox controller. But if you're looking to augment your mobile device's functionality by adding an overall good controller to the mix, this device hits most of the marks and features some nice bonuses. So now that we've looked at the clip, let's look at the controller itself, because this is the money, right? This is what you're going to be having in your hands hours and hours at a time. So as I mentioned before, a lot of these controllers had something wrong with them. D-pad's too mushy, D-pad's not responsive, down doesn't work well on the D-pad, the analog stick throws are too stiff. I mean, listen, there could be any number of different reasons why each one of these controllers failed in some way, even though they exceeded my expectations in other ways. This looks, feels, and acts like an Xbox controller, which is exactly why I was drawn to this product to begin with. Just a reminder, I paid full price. I am not a compensated endorser, right? So I paid full price because I was interested in possibly extending my gaming to my phone, especially some cloud gaming services, right? I'd be interested in being able to play Call of Duty Cold War while sitting on the couch, for example. So the fact that this feels and looks like an Xbox controller is definitely right up my alley. Hopefully it is for you as well. I've got big old man paws, right? So a lot of these controllers, like this guy, super uncomfortable. This fits well into my hand. Everything is accessible. All the buttons are where you would hope they would be. The D-pad, everything is exactly the way you would want it. Of course, if you're an Xbox controller fan. If you're a PlayStation DualShock fan, you might more like this guy. My point though is that unlike other controllers that decide they want to put the buttons in a weird location, the D-pads are actually buttons, whatever it is, if you love an Xbox controller, then you're one step closer to getting exactly what you want with this. But what about from a construction point of view, right? D-pads are incredibly important, especially if you're a classic gamer or if you're an emulation player, because a good solid 4-directional D-pad can be paramount to your enjoyment. So the D-pads on these guys all sort of varied. Some of them were better than others. Most of them are subpar. And I've talked a lot on my retro gaming radio show, on Passenger Seat Radio. The real crux of a good controller ends and starts both with the D-pad. And for me, the D-pad on this particular controller is above average, right? So is it an Elite controller's D-pad? Absolutely not. But it doesn't feel mushy. It feels responsive. It's 4-directional. It's what you would want it to be. Now, in my early play testing, and we'll talk more about this when I actually start play testing for you and showing you games and whatnot running with this, then you'll find that the angles, the diagonals, where you have to push 2 of these together at the same time, tend to be a little sketchy. Now that could be because the controller's new and there needs to be a break-in period. I've had about 3 days with this guy, and I've played a lot of stuff, and I'm going to play a lot of stuff for you in real time. But I would say that the angles may be the only weak spot of this particular controller, but as it breaks in, this might fix itself. The construction of the analog sticks are amazingly good. I'm very pleased with them. Right down to the clicks, they feel like quality. They're tight, but not too tight. They've got good tension, but not too much tension. So I really enjoy that. There's texture on the tip, which I love that. I love that it's textured and that it's actually raised ridged on the outside. I like the analog sticks a lot, and you'll probably be spending a lot of time with said analog sticks, so that's a good thing. So the analog sticks are solid. What about the buttons? Let's talk about the buttons, because this is where the quality starts to take a little bit of a dive, and I'll explain. The face buttons are great. They feel perfect. They feel just like an Xbox set. They feel like they're going to withstand the test of time. We have a start and select button. These feel cheap and clicky. Move up to the top, we have bumpers. They feel a little bit better, but they still feel a little clicky. You get to the triggers, they feel a little on the cheaper side, right? These feel like a slightly lesser quality. They feel okay. I mean, I've got triggers on some of these other ones. This feels terrible. This is a terrible trigger. These aren't horrible. But when you start looking at the overall quality of this device, this is where it starts to take just a little bit of a dive. Now, I didn't have any problems with responsiveness or use of them, but there is a distinctive difference when you start using the analog sticks and then you go up here and you use these guys. It's like, hey, wait a minute. Not quite the same feeling of quality. Now, time will tell whether or not they hold up, but I would be in remiss of my duties if I didn't tell you that I feel like this is where the overall quality cost took a little bit of a dive. So that's sort of the first downside of this controller, are these particular buttons. Also, the buttons on the back, what I would call the paddle buttons, because that's what they call them on the Elite controller, these rear buttons also have that sort of clicky feel to them. So probably not as high of quality. But time will tell how they hold up. Also on the device, we have a couple of other interesting things. We have a battery indicator button, so you push that button, you'll get a little battery indicator light. Kind of nice. There's a 3000 milliamp battery within that can either power the internal controller, or you can, as mentioned in the video brochure, you can also plug a device into this, and you can use this as a power bank. So that's kind of a neat thing as well. While we're talking about these top controller points here, take a look at the the micro USB port. It's recessed pretty deep. And so if you have existing cables, micro USB cables that have a rather large tip on them, they may not plug into this. Now the device, since we're talking about cables, does come with 3 cables of its own. One of which is a short micro USB to either micro USB or USB-C, a USB-A to micro USB or USB-C, and finally you've got a nice long, what I would consider like a charging cable, which is micro USB and USB-A. So this is what you would use to charge the controller, and you might use one of these to connect to your phone, like this guy. So you would plug this into the Moga and then plug this into your phone, and you are now charging your phone, providing you have this switch flipped, of course, that says you're using external charging. So that's kind of neat. Also, right below the Xbox button is a switch, which is wired and USB. Now, oddly enough, you would think that a controller that looks, acts, and says recommended for Xbox would actually work on an Xbox, but it does not. Certainly, I don't know if that's a selling point or not, but just so you know, I couldn't let this video go without letting you know that it does not work on an Xbox. And in fact, the manual will actually tell you it does not work on an Xbox. But that's okay, because you're supposed to be putting your phone into this, right? I will tell you that it does work as a wired device for a PC. And that's actually kind of cool. And there's one interesting feature, which I know I mentioned in the virtual brochure, but this is being able to flip between DirectInput and XInput. So certain games on the PC require one type or the other. DirectInput is the older version, I believe, and XInput's the newer version. Unfortunately, this defaults to the older version. So in order to change over to the newer version, you'll long press start and select at the same time for 3 seconds. You'll get a flashing light, and now you're in the other mode. So DirectInput or XInput, that's how it toggles. So if you plug this into your computer and it does not seem to be working, try that trick and you'll be home free. Of course, it is a Bluetooth 4.2 device, so in that respect, you should be able to run this on pretty much any device that supports Bluetooth, right? This would be your computer, this would be your tablet, this would be your phone. So this device should cover almost everything except for an actual Xbox or another console, right? It's obviously not going to work on the PlayStation, and it's not going to work on the Switch. But overall, the device does have some pretty good compatibility, especially that DirectInput, XInput thing. If you've got old games that you play, like from GOG or something like that, that requires the older input type, you're gonna love the fact that this controller supports it, because setting something like that up is crazy. You have to hook up software-based key mappers and everything else to get around that stuff. Having a controller that has both is a huge selling point for those that need it. So anyway, so there's the Bluetooth pairing at the top. Otherwise, everything else is exactly what you would expect to see. The programming button down at the bottom is simply fantastic. There's a hardware method of mapping buttons to the rear buttons, right? And as I mentioned earlier, I like to map left click or L3 and right click in R3. I like to map those to the rear buttons. That means that to run, I don't have to click in while I'm trying to move and just go in a direction. And I can melee quicker without having to sort of stop looking to click in or move and click. It's horribly inefficient. Once you start using these back buttons, you'll never want a controller that doesn't have them again. So maybe don't get used to them. You can map to any button that's already on here, any of the face buttons and the D-pad, as well as the bumpers. But anyway, so from a construction point of view, it feels durable enough. It's a little bit light. I would hope it would be just a little bit heavier, but at 9.6 ounces, without the phone on it, it's probably better that it's light over heft. If it was only going to be in my hand like this, without a big heavy phone sitting on it, I'd be more concerned with the weight, giving it more of that durable feel and that heft to it. But in this case, the fact that we're strapping on this big old monster heavy phone to the whole equation, I'm probably happier that it's a little bit lighter, and I don't feel that cheap light feeling like you would get with this guy. This guy feels like if I dropped it, it would take like 5 seconds before it hit the desk. So from that point of view, I think we're okay. So the real question, of course, now, the rubberized grips. Yeah, we talked about that in the video earlier. I'm hopeful they don't peel off. I mean, I couldn't believe that the Xbox Elite controllers had rubberized grip peeling problems. It's a premium controller. There should be no business with that. Only time will tell whether that'll happen here. And we'll find out over time as we use it. So the last thing we really have to do with this thing is use it, right? I've been using it on my device, on my phone, and I did hook it up to my tablet briefly, my Chromebook Lenovo Duet, and it works great. There's a couple of caveats you need to know about it. The first big caveat is that it does not work for Call of Duty Mobile. For some of you, you just stop the video. I mean, if you were hoping for a competitive, good quality, high quality controller to play Call of Duty Mobile with, it doesn't work. And you can go search Reddit, you can go search Google, you'll find hundreds of other people complaining about the same problem. And it's absolutely ridiculous that it does not work. And I don't know if there's some sort of a licensing agreement with Microsoft and Sony, because those are the only two controllers that supposedly do the job. So, and it does not work wired either. I tried that as well because I was thinking ahead. For me, using Call of Duty with this would have been a huge selling point. Unfortunately, it does not work. Apparently, if you're willing to connect momentarily an Xbox controller to your phone to fool the game into flipping controller mode on, at that point you can use this controller. I'm at a loss for words, but that's the workaround that's going around the internet. So if you're thinking about this in Call of Duty, stop thinking about it. If that was the nail in the coffin for you. I'm sorry you had to wait this long to hear about it. But for a lot of people that are evaluating this, that is only one little slice of the pie. You want to know how it works with emulators. You want to know how it works with other native Android games. You really want to know how it works with ShadowPC and how well it works with GeforceNOW. And guess what? We're going to do that all coming up next. All right, we're going to start off with a native Android app named Grim Valor. And this is a side-scrolling beat 'em up, adventure, etc., etc. All right. So we are to investigate the ruins. So I'm using the analog stick, as you can see. Jump buttons work great. Press A to jump, no problem. Hold A to jump higher. And hold B to dash, sure. Jump to get over the high stuff, yeah. All standard stuff, oops, except for I missed. There we go, double jump, pick X to pick up loot. It's all standard stuff here. Very comfortable though, it plays fine. A to double jump. Yeah, this is comfortable. I mean, I'm sitting in a weird angle so that I could record it for you, but overall, I mean, yeah, this is fine. X to attack, right? Smack you down. It's a little floaty jumping around, but you know, what do you want? Hold X to keep attacking. All right, I mean, there's not a whole lot of lifting going on here. It's going right and left, you know, so that they can make it palatable for touchscreen people. But you know, listen, it supports gamepad out of the box, and it plays comfortable with this guy. You don't have to use a lot of unusual. Don't have to use a lot of unusual buttons. You don't even have to use bumpers or anything. But let's take a look at some emulation, shall we? Let's start off with some PlayStation Portable. All right, and I happen to have God of War on here. Extremely loud too, I might add. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and load up God of War. I happen to have a save state handy. And so I'm gonna just jump to that save state so that we don't have to wait for the whole thing. You can just see how it plays. Now see, this is the kind of game you want a controller for. Can you imagine playing a game like this? You play a game like this without actually having a controller? I mean, that would be madness, right? You're not playing this with a touch controller. How terrible would that be? What a great game, right? This whole series was awesome. Well, I don't know. I don't know about the new ones, but the old ones were great. Hold L to block. Oh, I must have turned on speed up. You gotta watch those button configurations, folks. Yeah, plays fantastic. I mean, this is the way, this is the controller that this type of a game is meant to be played with. Forget touchscreen crap. Nice. Say like the Nintendo DS, right? I got a couple of games here that are probably worth looking at. Retro Game Challenge, for example. And again, these are all, I mean, I didn't really have to do anything to configure these. They just sort of worked out of the box, and that's what you're looking for. And again, none of these games are really stretching the bounds of these controls. We'll get to that later. Got the buttons are reversed on here. And of course, with this one, you know, you can swap screens and you can have them side by side, or just zoom into one or the other, change sides, blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, I thought I would get past all this. so I could just show you some action, but unfortunately, a lot of these games are all take some time to get into actually do anything, just other than hitting the A button. So much for continue, right? At least you get to see DS emulation on the S21, right? That's something. Move along. Ha 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 ha. Whatever. Good Lord. I might have to just cut all this out. Talk, talk, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Of course, as soon as I get to the part where I need to be, I'm backing out of it. All right, and of course I can, like I said, I can choose which screen I want to look at. So now I could use this D-pad as it's properly designed to do for this sort of a retro game. Fire doesn't really fire as fast as I would hope, but that's not the fault of the controller, though. That's the game. But listen, it all works like it should. I mean, it's comfortable. It's, you know, you can use the analog stick too if you want. All right, but you get the idea, right? Remember how to get out of this. Could sit here and do this crap all day long. How about something from Citra, huh? I'm tempted. All right, I'll just show you a little tiny bit of this, even though hopefully Nintendo won't freak out. Hopefully we'll keep this short enough where hopefully it won't ping any radars. Plus it's like in a little tiny screen in the middle here, right? So hopefully you won't see anything, or they won't see anything. Once again, I'm waiting for something to happen so I can show you something. Remember when you used to be able to skip this stuff? Now it's like you have to sit through all of it. This game offers a little bit more in the control aspect as well. Now you hear it's not, listen, it's the emulator's still at work, you know what I'm saying? All right, honey, let's get to work. All right. So we got standard controls here, right? So now we actually get to use the left trigger to actually get something accomplished here. Remember how these all work. Oh yeah. I forgot what you have to do. Knock this out. There we go. Believe me, my crappy play is not the fault of the controller. While holding R. There you go. Read the instructions. 2.0 knowledge. Knows correct answer when told. Just think fire button. I'm used to the controls here. I'm slow. As I was saying, I'm slow. Not completely enfeebled. See, this is nice and cozy. Uh-oh, little emulator problem here. Okay, well, The emulator's not perfect. What do you want? All right, so we've done a little bit of emulation. I was going to do more, but I mean, I think you kind of get the idea. It all works out quite well, and I've used a bunch of these different emulators on here. Right, so we can go in here. We can continue this game of Bruce Lee I was playing. If I can remember how to play this one either. Must be something I don't need. I need the green key. Hold A to wall flip. Remember how to run. There we go. What a great game, man. Remember all the fighting moves. Health. Get there. Man, the enemies just keep coming. Box of Kleenex, huh? I'm trying to look down at the video at the same time, make sure I have it straight up. All right, well, you get the idea, right? But let's see what we're talking about when it comes to, say, Shadow or GeforceNOW. Let's start with GeforceNOW. Yes, as you can see, I've got my favorites all lined up. Since Cyberpunk is latest and greatest, we'll go in there. Oh, I've got mobile data turned on. Well, that's just poor of me. Nice of them to allow that, though. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out. Wait till I get on my network. All right. Let's reestablish my tracking here. Let's hit up some Cyberpunk, shall we? See if I can definitely get this screen in better for you. Now, once again, of course, with GeforceNOW, you do have to own the titles, just like in Shadow. You do have to own the titles, but GeforceNOW restricts what items you can play while Shadow does not. That's why I've got both services on here to show you. So we will allow this to load. And again, this is not to evaluate a cloud service or its abilities, but to show you that this controller does indeed work. It maps right. I haven't had to do anything special to make this happen. It just works. And that's what we're looking for with this controller. It just works. Hard to see behind the camera here. Hopefully there won't be any spoilers in here. Come on, hurry up and load. There we go. All right, so here we go. Got invert on, little special powers, zoom in. I've got my back button set to run in melee. Oops, what am I stuck on? So I'm trying to do this from behind the camera here, not super easy. I guess I don't have that other one set up. But anyway, it's all dark in here. How about we kill somebody? Got a police warrant for my arrest. Where you going, little fella? Don't cower. Yeah, you can see it all works out. Everything that you would want to be able to do. Like I said, I didn't have to do any special mapping. It was all just here. And I'm telling you, having that back button, I don't know if you can see me hitting that for running and stuff. I love it so much. No, somebody fighting back. Again, it's a pretty damn small screen, and I'm not a young chicken. Plus, I got my contacts in, so. Anyway, I just want you to see that it does work. And it does. And it works out rather well. All right, so Shadow is yet another cloud-based gaming system, except for you pretty much like own the computer up there, so it doesn't really matter what you play. They don't stop you like GeforceNOW does. So let's take a look at Valheim, one of my favorite new pleasures. Back up a little bit, hopefully you can see that all right. So what this is doing is it's waking up my ShadowPC. It's going to, see, it picked up my Moga just fine. And there's my PC, as if I were sitting right in front of it. All right, so let's get that game loaded. All right, here we go. And we are ready to play some Valheim. Excellent. Oh, there's my face. I hate that. I wish I could figure out how to do this off screen without getting that weird glare. To get a lot of angle on that. All right. Game is loading. Takes this long on my PC too, so I really can't complain. All right. Start the game, grab my character, select my world, and in we go. Yeah, I've noticed that. I think that's a shadow glitch. Doesn't affect anything, fortunately. So what's really nice about ShadowPC, unlike GeforceNOW, you can play Blizzard games on there. So if you want to play Call of Duty, if you want to play Overwatch, and you want to do it in the cloud, ShadowPC is the way to go. A little more spendy though than GeforceNOW, but you get the opportunity to play anything you want. All right, of course it's nighttime naturally, but I can do a little bit of running around. Actually, the keys are all weirdly configured for this game anyway. But I'll see if I can head towards some light so you can actually see something. Terrible time of the day to be doing this, but you get the idea. So I can do my sneaking. I can use my D-pad, select my arrows, shoot an arrow. Everything, listen, it's just like you're playing with a regular gamepad on a regular computer. I mean, I'm here to kind of tell you what works and doesn't work, and so far everything pretty much works except for Call of Duty. Like I said, I'm just kind of running around, vamping. The tree of life in the sky, whatever it is. Anyway, and you can see, I mean, so I've got my camera movement going on, I've got my analog stick moving, I'll do a little combat here. Well, not really combat with a neck, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, okay, there was some hiccups there from the network, but listen. It's cloud gaming is cloud gaming, and that's just the way it is. But I mean, look at this. I mean, this plays really great. I mean, this is all. I mean, it's not my Elite controller, but I don't have to be sitting in front of my computer to do this, and that's pretty great, and it's comfortable. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And again, I'd like to point out, I didn't have to set anything up crazy to make this happen. This stuff just happened on its own. I mean, it just mapped all up by itself. close the game just to make sure it knows that I closed it, and there you go. And now we're out of shadow. So that's it. I mean, I could sit here all day long and talk about this guy, but this is it. This is the Moga, PowerA Moga XP5-X right here for you. Again, so what's my final verdict? What do I think? Should you get it? If you don't already have a solution and you're in the market, this is definitely worth looking at. It's worth checking out, especially if I checked all your boxes. If you already have an Xbox controller that's Bluetooth capable, they sell similar types of clips like this for your phone that work directly with an Xbox controller. So you may not need to worry about buying another controller. But listen, if you're starting from scratch and you're looking for something that's reasonably durable, very comfortable, maybe with a couple of lower spots of quality control, maybe on some of these guys in the back buttons. But listen, overall for the price, I think you're in pretty good shape here. So yeah, I think it's worth a look. Of course, I'll have a link down in the description. You buy it off of Amazon using my link. Of course, I get a little taste of that sale as well, so we always appreciate that. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and of course, click the little bell to get notified about future videos just like this one. I'm Shane R. Monroe, and as always, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Take care.